Welcome back to another episode of MatStats. I'm Jason Bryant, joined with Glenn Gormley and Kevin Hazard. Today, we're going to have some fun. Of course, we're always going to have fun with numbers with our resident statistician, Glenn Gormley, and our resident Grand Poobah of wrestling, Kevin Hazard. But the All-Star Classic coming up on November 22nd, it is back. It's coming to Austin, Texas. It'll be streamed live on Flow Wrestling. We're going to dive into the history of this event. We're going to look at some numbers about it. I've also got some interesting stats, facts, and figures, but I'm going to start with Kevin on this one today because the All-Star Classic has been a fan favorite. It's been one that people talk about, the old East-West, and this is something that those that grew up in that era where that really was born with guys like Gable wrestling in it. Kevin, what do you remember about the All-Star Classic, the East-West All-Star as it was known back in the day?
Well, the All-Star, the East-West, I mean, it was the format. It was the East against the West, and some of the legendary names came through there. I remember watching Rick Sanders tie in the All-Star Classic. I saw Gable after he lost his last match in college come back with a vengeance and with a fall. I think it was at that time. I think they were doing it. Of course, they were. It was right after the season. Gable gets a fall, but it was kind of nice. It kind of gave it some definition. The East against the West, and it was kind of fun. I mean, that went on for 20 plus years, and then we've had a number of formats since. But I understand that you have to change because it's hard to do an event like that.
Yeah, and East West kind of Glenn's going to break us down on some of the dates that were important here. But Glenn, what do you remember about the All Star Classic back in the day?
I'm in the tail end of the East West days when I was in college. I'm a little younger than Kevin, but I have the
You've
same
always got to
memories of
throw that in
Kevin.
there, don't you? You always have to let
Yeah,
them
yeah,
know that you're
yeah.
younger than Kevin. Come on.
Yeah, just
Well,
a couple of
most
years, just a
people
year or
are.
two. Yeah. So, I mean, I just think it's a great event. I remember it being in the middle of the season. Okay. And then, of course, it's been moved out to the beginning of the season, but it's something the sport needs. We need this all star match again. It's another great way to put our best foot forward.
Yeah, and this is an event that I had to attend multiple times, or had the pleasure of attending multiple times. First, starting when I started working with the NWCA back in two. I think my first one was in 2006 down in Texas. So there's some interesting matches. We've had warm up bouts in the past. We've had exhibition bouts. We started with women's bouts at George Mason. Princeton did a great job with the Wrestlers in Business Network putting a full dual card on. This year, it's going to be in Austin as Flow Wrestling is taking the torch and going to set this thing up too. But we're going to look into the history a little bit. Glenn, why don't you set the table on what we've got for this show?
Okay, what this show is about, it's a normal thing where, I feel like a number. This is a stat show. It's not a wrestling show, but this show is going to be a little bit more than just numbers. And we have two great historians, Kevin Hazard and Jason Bryant, going to fill us in on that. And of course, just like every other show, I want to let everybody know that this is an opinion of MatStats, okay? It's not an opinion of the NWCA or anybody else. We say things here, they're not to hurt anybody's feelings, but we want to let everybody know. And not all three of us agree on everything we say here, okay? So this is an opinion driven show based on the stats. Um, it's great that the All Star match is back. It's back for the first time in 4 years. Thank you for Flow Wrestling. The sport needs this now more than ever. That's the title of the show, now more than ever, because we really do need this. We're in a nice growth segment in college teams, and this is something to really help out the sport. Um, this is my opinion, and this is one of these things where I said opinion. Let's play two. Of course, we all know that there are two baseball games. I was in the Jadwin gym for 2017 when Princeton did it, and Jason accurately said the way Princeton did this. Thank you to the Ayers family, the Princeton staff, Dr. Mark McLaughlin and Joe Savino. Dr. Mark McLaughlin came up with the idea of having a full women's card on this in a late night call. It just came out of, just Mark's mind doing this. And by the way, Mark ran a half marathon yesterday, 2 hours and 12 seconds in Princeton. So good job there. Um, so I'm in the firm belief that we should have 10 women's bouts and 10 men's bouts. But I don't know enough about the logistics, what's going on in Flow in Austin. So I'm going to be happy with that, whatever they do. Um, let's use this Let's Play 2 thing. You don't have to be a Cubs Hall of Famer or a great neurosurgeon to come up with great ideas, but it doesn't hurt any. Okay. So that's where we're at with this. We're going to go to this match. We're going to dive into the stats here. And when we're doing it, we're going to have Kevin and Jason weigh in on any of their memories of anything. A couple shows ago, we showed that the scoring has gone down in the NCAA tournament from 1988 to 92 to 2017-22. What we see here, and you can see the numbers highlighted in red, that's the total points from the All-Star match from 67 to 87, and then from 88 to 2018. Okay, it goes down from 11.8 to almost 10, and the margin goes down 4.4 and a quarter to about 3.5. Okay, so the scoring has gone down. Now, the first thing, of course, the Grand Poobah Kevin Hazard asked me, well, you got to do this by the minute because the matches were 9 minutes in Kevin's day, 8 in mine, and 7 in Jason's days. So I guess we're a 9-8-7 generation here, guys. So if you do a total points per minute, the scoring is decreased a little bit over 8%. Okay. And going forward on what we talked about for the last several shows is our margin of victory scoring system. And this time, of course, for a dual meet, because the All-Star match is a dual meet, not a tournament. If I ran all the numbers for the All-Star match for the time frame we were talking about, and it's 4.13 points per bout. The next slide, Kevin. Jason, excuse me. Okay, one more. Okay, it's 4.13. That's the same system we used in the other thing. To refresh everyone's memory, the next slide shows us how that compares with the NCAA, and the NCAA was 6.8. So we see it's lower scoring, okay, because the margin of victory, of course, is margin of victory. All right. There is a 62% increase in team dual points from the NWCA All-Star Match to the NCAAs. Okay, that is a big increase. Okay, what is going on here, guys? Okay, well, one thing we know now, we have a control group with the All-Star Match. The only difference really between the All-Star Match and not is there's no team scoring in an All-Star Match. Okay, it's just you win or you lose. Okay, so on slide 11, okay, here's a slide where you can compare all the All-Star matches from 88 to 18 and compare them with all the NCAA matches and then with the quarters, semis, and the finals. Okay, and I'll go into why I selected the NCAA quarters, semis, and finals to compare that to. Okay, and when you see that, even the NCAA quarters, semis, and finals have more scoring than the All-Star match. Okay, and the margin is a 25% bigger margin. Now, why do we use this? Okay, this is what we do here at MatStats. We do a deep dive. Okay, when comparing the NWCA All-Star Match with the NCAA Division I All-Star Match, what is the best round of the Nationals to use? Okay, we used all this data from the All-Star Match with matches that had both wrestlers go to the NCAA tournament that year. Sometimes they weren't all Division I kids. Sometimes kids wound up redshirting, got injured, didn't qualify, what have you. So we had to use those matches. We can see on slide 13 that there are so many more higher scoring matches and matches with 7 and 8 point differential. Okay. You can see the multiplier of 8 over 7 in the quarters is 1.31. The All-Star match is 0.89. Okay. So there are more of those higher scoring matches. Okay. Now, I'm going to try to take a break here and let everyone understand what's going on. Am I explaining this well enough, guys, that we have a control group with the NWCA All-Star Match to compare it with the NCAA? Okay. Now, if you look at slide 14, this is where the wrestlers placed or were eliminated in the NCAA tournament. The guys, and then once again, that they both made the NCAA. Only 21% of them actually win the NCAA tournament, and another 18% come in second. So only 40% of those guys actually make the finals. So it would not be true to compare it to the NCAA finals. Okay. And actually, 16% of the wrestlers don't even place at the NCAAs. Okay. That's not demeaning the All-Star match. Gormley thinks we should always have an All-Star match. He's all for it. Okay. I'm just trying to put everything in perspective. The next slide is the order of places. In green, it highlights total All Americans. Then it shows you first, second, third, fifth, etc. And you actually see more people lose in the fourth round consolation than come in fourth or sixth or seventh, etc. To give you a perspective of this. The next slide is a chart showing what they place or where they lose, explaining this. Okay. Wrestlers actually, what percent of All-Star match are previews to the finals? Kevin, would you have ever guessed the number is only 14%
No.
when I first ran these? Next slide, Jason. Okay. So MatStats ran the percentage of preview to the finals. Okay. There was actually one time where a national champ wrestled a national champ that year, Pat Smith and Matt Demaray. So we counted that in there. It's only 14% of the matches in the All-Star match are a preview to the finals. Would either one of you guys guessed it was that low?
No.
It depends, because I think with the All-Star back in the day, you wouldn't want to see the match you just saw, right? So they would mix it up
Yeah.
there back in the 60s and 70s, whereas
This stat's only from 88 on.
so from 88 on, you want to try to get it, but at the same point, um you know, we don't wrestle. Wrestling's not done on paper. So if you pick, even if you do pick
Yeah.
1 and 2 at the beginning of the year, that's or in the mid season, it's not going to necessarily. Wrestling happens, right? So, but 14
Yeah.
does seem a bit low, especially when you're considering if you go mid season, you're like, or then you have the outliers where like the year you had Emmett Wilson from Montana State Northern in there. So
Yeah. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, the same thing. I when you were doing it, I didn't know you were just comparing it from 88 on, especially in the 67 to 88, because it was the best in the West against best in the East. So it's not necessarily the best two, but 88 on, I think we got some pretty good matchups. So I
Yeah,
was a
I
little
think,
14-2-9.
yeah, and it's impossible to predict things because if we could predict this, we wouldn't be working here. We'd be on a beach somewhere, you know. So, okay. So the next slide shows us the average or mean place, whatever you want to call it, for the winner and the loser, and then you add them up. And as you see on the screen there, the average place for the winner of the All-Star match is 3.89 and the loser is 7.01. That totals up to 10.89. And if the world's perfect in the quarterfinals, one will wrestle 8, two will wrestle 7, etc., that will total up to 9. Okay. So this is going to why I'm using the quarters, the semis, and the finals. This goes to my logic there. Now, of course, you never have it working out perfectly like that. Now, how did I come up with placing for people that didn't place? Right? So on the next slide, it shows you, on slide 19, it shows you um, if you lose in the fourth round conchi, third round conchi, etc., that's the theoretical place you would have had. Okay. So that's how I use those numbers. And actually, two people did lose in consolation rat tails that wrestled in the All-Star match. So they were given 33rd place since they were the last one. So that's where we're getting these numbers from to do that. Okay, this is why I'm saying we compare the All-Star match, the NWCA All-Star match, with the NCAA tournament, with the combination of the quarters, semis, and finals. The NWCA All-Star match is a microcosm of what's to come in the quarters, semis, and finals. Okay. Now, in all 12 rounds of the NCAAs, there's 12 different rounds in NCAAs despite 6 sessions. Okay. There were a higher percentage of 7 and 8 margin of victories in everything, even the quarter semifinals, than there are in the NWCA All-Star Match. So something's going on here where we're not getting the points. Even the finals have a higher one than that. Okay. So there are also 2.5 times as many pins in the quarters, semis, and finals of the NCAA as there are in the NWCA All-Star matches. Does this surprise you guys?
Quarters, no, but in theory, isn't the All-Star now, since it's supposed to not count? I would assume, well, what's the harm in letting it all hang out and let it go? But on the flip side of that, it's another opportunity to get tape and scout. So maybe the combative point to that is no, you're wrestling a little closer because you don't want to show them everything you got if it's in the season or before the season versus after the season. So since your point, since our starting point in 1988, so I can see the argument both ways, but I think it would probably lean towards more being the I'm not going to show this guy everything I've got. This match doesn't count, so why let me hold back because I'm when it counts is March that matters, right?
Well, and
Yes.
and and another thing is when you're training, are you gonna focus your training to focus on this match? Probably not. You're gonna focus like Jason just said, conference a little bit, get through the conference, get to the finals or get to the NCAA championships. So you're
Yeah.
not going to be in your
Okay.
best shape.
All right. So by far, as you see on the next slide, by far the biggest stat from the NWCA All-Star Match was the lower frequency of majors, techs, and pins. This was the biggest thing that jumped out to MatStats. Okay. So what do we have going on here? Okay. We went over all the decreases. I have called this Hazard's razor. Okay. I think
Just
we've
like
all heard of Occam's razor. And I'm giving the credit to Kevin Hazard because he's the one that came up with this.
Yeah, he
Occam's
used he
razor
used
advocate.
Hazard's razor on his head earlier today too, I
yeah,
believe.
Yes, yes, yes. This was not an
that,
insult on his receding hairline or gone hairline. Okay.
Jason,
Um,
yours is going back a
It's
little bit.
going, it's going. Yeah,
yeah, I got a
43.
full head of hair for an
It's
old
going.
guy. It's just all white. Okay.
Kevin, you want to go to
Occam's
Tennessee and beat
razor.
him up, or should I do it? We know people. All right. Anyway,
Occam's razor says when presented with competing hypotheses about the same problem, one should select a solution with the fewest assumptions. Other
one way to
things
put
being
that too,
equal,
right? The way I've heard it is like the simplest answer is usually the most rational,
yes,
the simple is usually the answer.
Yes, the best
yeah,
answer.
the simplest.
Yeah.
Yep. Other things being equal, simple explanations are generally better than more complex ones. Okay. I'm calling Kevin Hazard, besides the Grand Poobah, the Mac Daddy, as in the old 80s term, the Mac Daddy. Okay. I sent Kevin some data I'd been researching on one of these shows months ago. And Kevin on the phone goes to me, Gorms, why are there more 8 and 9 point victories than 7? Okay. That, of course, is because of that's where the extra point comes in now. And this margin of victory wants to do away with that. They want points to be scored for every margin of victory. Okay. Kevin coming up with this is not as big as Fleming coming up with penicillin, but it's damn close. Okay. It's big for this sport. The jump in the 8 and 9 point victories in the NCAA and the 15 point and the pin in the NCAA tournament over the control group of the All-Star match is because what's the difference, Kevin and Jason, in the two things?
One
Team
counts, one doesn't.
Team
team
scoring,
point.
one counts. Bingo,
Yeah.
guys. You both got it right. Team scoring, one counts, one doesn't really count. Okay, so we need to change, next slide, scoring in dual meets and tournaments now more than ever. Okay, this is a perfect thing. This is all coincidental, guys. We're doing this about the All-Star match because it's a timely topic. The All-Star match is coming up. And being a stats guy, I just investigated everything I did. And with Kevin's help from a show before, this really shows what we've learned here. Okay. I don't know that anyone else other than our group here, the MatStats gang you see on the screen, has done all this work. But I'm willing to anybody about this, anytime, any place, anybody with the NCAA, NWCA, on why we need to make this change. And this, I believe, is the biggest thing we have found on MatStats to date on any type
And
of
it,
scoring.
and it's really nice to have a control group like the All Star group.
Yes, because we have a great group of wrestlers. They're all guys that are most likely going to be in the quarter semis or finals this year. So we'll get to see them, beforehand. The next chart is just a flashback to where it happens in the NCAAs. So, in case any of you guys didn't remember that, the viewers at home, where you see in green 8 and 9 jumping 7, and 15 jumping a bunch, and 16 actually jumping 14. And then the old bar graph of that on the next slide. And then you can see on slide 28 where it doesn't work like that in the All-Star match. Now, before we do the match Cliff's notes to wrap this up, I want to hear some old stories from you guys about the All-Star match, why we need it, the excitement about it, the fun about it. Let's hear from our two historians.
Okay, I'll go first. I really liked having it East West, but I know what the problem was. And I mean, the first 10 years of the All Star match, I think it was fairly even East and West, but the West won the last 11 in a row. And I think they decided, well, maybe this isn't as fair anymore. I think maybe wrestling had moved west. A lot of the Eastern kids were going out to the Midwest to wrestle. They were wrestling at Oklahoma. They were wrestling at Iowa State. So that they had to change that. But a couple of key memories I have is the excitement around. I think it was 2013 when Dake wrestled Taylor. All of a sudden, the All Star match was really important again, and Dake put out a public challenge. That was so good for our sport, and Taylor immediately accepted it. They're friends off the court, but that was really exciting. I think people tuned in just for that match, and a couple of things that I've liked about the All Star match. They've tried things. One year we had a 3-point takedown, and then another year I think it was Atlanta. That was the first time they put a 4-point near fall in. We experimented with riding time. It's a good time to experiment, especially doing it preseason. It adds to the fun. It adds to the excitement. For those reasons, and the top caliber of competition you see all in one place makes it, I think, like Glenn said earlier, mandatory to have an all-star match. Great to have it
And it
back.
would be a great place, Kevin, it'd be a great place to experiment with the margin of victory scoring.
Fully agreed.
100%. What I like about it is it's a showcase of wrestling. And, I tend to be, I'm going to react to some of the comments, the negative comments I've heard over the years here, because they're like, it's never 1 versus 2. Well, neither is the NCAA finals. Okay. I think was it the Ohio State Penn State dual meet, or was it the Iowa Penn State dual meet 2 years ago? It was something within the last 2 seasons that was the first dual meet of 2 teams that had all-star classic like numbers when it comes to the number of all-Americans and national champions in it. I remember one year we had 19 out of 20 in the field in of the 10 men's weights. 19 of the 20 were all-Americans. I think there were 6 national champs, and people were like, "Well, there's no number ones versus number 2." So I was like, "What other 2-hour event that isn't the NCAA finals are you going to see this type of event?" I mean, it's nuts that you can't. I feel like the fact that there's blowback or pushback on this thing it boggles my mind because again, we only draw at the Big Tens and the D1s as for crowds. So I don't understand why like a national duels shouldn't be a draw. Why people wouldn't come flock to see 20 superstar athletes or watch it everywhere because this is an opportunity to see them. And you know what? They're not necessarily going to be as tense because there's the semis where they're tense or they're the tense of the finals because there's a national championship on the line. They can let the fur fly, although our stats have proven they maybe don't. So that defeats my own point. But the point is here is you're not going to find a dual meet except for maybe once in a generation that has this many high caliber wrestlers in it hitting head to head. The Southern Scuffle Finals doesn't have it. The Midlands Finals doesn't have it. Vegas Finals doesn't have it. The NCAA Division One Finals has it because that's what sets the bar for that season and then the next season for the rankings. So I love it. I do like the experimental rules part of it. One of them, what we did in Philly one year was the neutral start with your top and bottom on when you go out of bounds. Now, granted, part of that too is I don't like nuanced rules, and I think introducing too many nuances can sometimes be counterproductive. But the All Star Classic is an event where you can bring in the NAIA champion like Brock Gutchis or an Emmett Wilson or a D2. I remember one year in Texas, Spencer Nadolski of North Carolina wrestled Bode Ogunwole from Harvard. That was the main event. The better match was Blake Gillis of Wartburg and Tervel Delagnev of Nebraska Kearney, who ended up being the D2 and D3 champs that year. So, sometimes you get the smaller schools. Tervel wrestled in it at Oregon against Wade Sauer from Cal State Fullerton. You had a D1 All-American versus the D2 champ. So, I mean, you have the opportunities to create these awesome matchups that aren't just, well, maybe if this guy from the Midlands gets through. Emmett Wilson wrestling Sean Stender the year he won the Hodge for Montana State Northern is an opportunity. He beat another Division One All-American. It gave him the opportunity to win that Hodge because, yeah, he went to the Midlands. He went to Vegas and beat everybody, beat all comers. Then he beats another one. So that's an opportunity where, I mean, granted, that was a little later in the season, but I love the event because it's a showcase of wrestling. It's like, hey, here are the best. And the thing is, the guys hang around. There's a chance to sign autographs. They're not, all right, I got to get back and we got the next round to get. And it's usually not as tight when it comes to ushers and such to try to reach over and get an autograph from one of your favorites. It's a great place to bring the kids. It's a great place if you're in the area. I mean, I don't know how much of a destination event it should be, but there's no reason a local community should not just fall over themselves getting to this and moving it to before the high school season starts is also important. During the season, what's the big complaint? Well, we're all coaching. All the wrestlers are wrestling fans. Well, this is in November. You've got practice, but your competition for the most part doesn't start until December, I think, in most, if not almost every state. So there's your opportunity to get out there. And if it's in an evening, let's go. There's nothing competing for your wrestling entertainment dollar, especially this year. So, we're gonna say, hey, get there and if you can't, I'm not sure what the seating situation is with where they're having it at Flow, but watch this thing because it is a high quality match. It's a high quality dual meet. There, you're gonna be hard pressed to find a dual meet that's gonna have this many hammers hitting each other. So that's my soapbox piece on the All Star.
Can I say one other quick thing along the same
Sure,
lines?
Kevin.
No, you cannot.
Uh,
Continue. Go ahead.
so ourselves, and I know a number of the WIBN chapters, we're going to have an event and we're going to sit down together and watch it, have a beer, have a little bit of talk before. So go to the NWCA website, and you're going to find out across the country there are places you can go and meet with other wrestling people to sit down and watch this event and do it together. It'll be fun.
Now, I might have a watch party here in the Speakeasy. Might as well, right?
Yeah, this is a great idea. It could be like the Super Bowl. It could be a house party event. You know,
Well, it's a
I
finite
like
time.
that, Kevin.
It's gonna be 2 hours. You know how long it's gonna be.
Yeah,
That's another thing about a dual meet. But Glenn, what else do we
yeah.
got moving forward?
Okay, and I'll just wrap up with our Matt Cliff's notes that we do. Okay, just to wrap up this show, guys. First of all, it's great to have the All Star Match back. Thank you, Flow Wrestling. Thank you, NWCA, for doing all that. Number one, what we learned on this team scoring does affect the wrestler's behavior. Okay. Number two, Hazard's Razor leads MatStats to believe it will be a great change in wrestling dual meet and tournament scoring. We need to make this change now more than ever. Okay. Scoring is lower at the NWCA All Star match than at the men's championship. Okay. Once again, it's great to have the All-Star Match back. 14% of all bouts of the All-Star Match are a preview to the Division One finals. Okay, this is slide 30, Jason. Number 7, this is a MatStats thing and a Gormley thing. We should treat men and women equally in the All-Star Classic, have 10 and 10. Okay. The NWCA All-Star Match is statistically substantially equal to the compilation of the quarters, semis, and finals of NCAA Division One. And then the number 9 thing was where Jason and Kevin had it.
All right. I didn't have this digitally because before we began the show, I had some technical difficulties. So you don't see my normal office backdrop. I'm actually at the Speakeasy backdrop. For those of you that follow the Matt Talk Online shows, you know I talk about the Speakeasy all the time. Well, this is the other view you get. So a little exclusive look here. So you know me, I love like most, firsts, bests, difference, and things like that. You know, what is it? The late Loretta Lynn, first, best, or different. Well, here's some things that are firsts, bests, and difference. Only one wrestler has ever come. Actually, I'm just going to be kind of open trivia, even though Kevin has pretty much bequeathed any challenge to the throne of wrestling trivia, at least on
Not going
this
to
show.
happen.
I know people out there do know more of the wrestling trivia than I do, but so throwing this out there for those of you listening, I'll maybe give you a good pause. But Kevin, I'm throwing these out, and Glenn, I'm throwing these out to you. Only one participant in the history of the event has competed 4 times. Who is it?
Cael Sanderson.
That is correct. There's only one. Now, there are a number who have competed 3 times. There are 3 wrestlers who have lost 3 times. See if you can throw any of them out there. I'm not asking for all of them, but I will name all of them. Any guesses on who the 3
I
could
think
be?
it's a guy from
Bobby
Virginia. And I don't want to
Sears.
mention his name if I'm not right.
One's a guy from Virginia, yes.
Billy Martin
Bobby
Jr.
Sears.
Billy Martin Jr. is the one. Yep, that's one.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just.
Bobby Sears.
No, but we do have.
Who's the guy from Michigan who lost in the finals all 3 times to the Lehigh guy?
Right, but that was
That
not
was
in
Bobby
the All-Star. Yeah, Bob Fear. Yeah, we was talking
Okay,
about that.
thank
But
you.
I know he was in it at least twice, but I can't
Yep.
remember if he.
Yeah, Harold Smith 3 times, Dustin Minotti of Cornell 3 times. Harold Smith was from Kentucky. Now, several wrestlers, I found this interesting. Of the wrestlers who have won 3 times, Tommy Rollins, Greg Jones, Jake Varner, these are all mostly the modern era. Josh Asper of Maryland. Larry Bielenberg is an older generation. Lee Kemp didn't lose, but he was 2-0-1. He had 2 wins and a tie, and that tie against Kelly Ward famously ended his win streak. It kept his unbeaten streak alive, but it famously ended his win streak. And that match would not count under today's rules. So interesting that, again, back in the day, the All-Star Classic did count on your record, and they did use it for NCAA seeding. Sam Hazewinkle, 3 wins. Stephen Neal, 3 wins. Now, of the 3 match winners, only 2 of them didn't win an NCAA championship. Josh Asper, who ended up only being a 2-time All-American, and Sam Hazewinkle, who went 3-3-3-2. So interesting note there. From a school perspective, 24 schools have stepped on the mat at the All-Star Classic and not come away with a win. Only one school that has participated, get this, Glenn, you'll love this, has never won and never lost. Kevin Hazard, why is that a possibility?
A tie.
Right. 1 school, 2 appearances, 2 ties. So Mike Chin in 1978, Kevin Jackson 1985 for LSU. Louisiana State only had 2 appearances, 2 ties. No wins, no losses. So interesting there.
Wow.
What school do you think has the most appearances in the All-Star Classic?
Okie State.
Iowa State.
All right. Oklahoma State is the correct answer. 91 appearances. They are 45, 40, and 6. Who is second?
Iowa.
They are also the team with the most individual wins. They have 52 wins, 52, 19, and 4. Iowa State is third, 48, 18, and 3. Now, with all those, back and forth between, Iowa and Iowa State are 1-2, it made me wonder, how many times have they faced in the All-Star Classic? Over or under 10? Over or under, Kevin?
All 3 of them?
No, just Iowa and Iowa State here.
Over.
Glenn, over
Under.
3. And part of that
3.
is the
Wow.
East-West because they were on the same side. Iowa
Yeah.
actually leads Iowa State 2-1 in the head-to-heads at the All-Star because normally
Yeah. That's what I
they were
guessed
on the
under.
same side. So, other things to look at, AJ Shop and Mason Beckman. Now, there's a bunch of multiple times. I didn't have a chance to go through it, but I thought that in recent memory, AJ Shop wrestled Mason Beckman twice. They split. Carlton Hasselrig wrestled Joel Greenlee twice. There was a Hasselrig won, and then there was a tie, which famously ended one of Hasselrig's win streaks. And Chris Taylor, who actually only had 2 years at the Division I level, wrestled Joel Kislin of Hofstra twice at the All-Star Classic. Big Bruce Baumgartner, interesting two opponents that he beat. He beat Dan the Beast Severn, who you may know from MMA and professional wrestling fame. And he has a victory again over four-time All-American and former college football player and again professional wrestler, the late Steve Dr. Death Williams. So Big Bruce has an interesting combative sports background in the All-Star. Taking on Dan the Beast Severn and Dr. Death. So those are some of the things that I found that were pretty interesting. I do have all the records at my Matt Talk Almanac site. Of course, the NWCA has a list of all sorts of stuff as well. There'll be Flow Wrestling with the previews throughout the weight class. They went into some deep dives on these weight classes, weight by weight, with the women's matches that we've also got involved with the 10 men's weights. Or actually, it's not even 10. We've actually got kind of I don't want to say a catch weight, but we've got some, Car Monday coming back. That's one of the big highlights. Quincy Monday wrestling David Carr, of course, their dads, Kenny Monday and Nate Carr having some battles back in the day. So that's another thing. What is old is new. What is new is old, and what is cool should still be cool. So those are just some of the things. I could be here for hours talking about the cool stats about the All-Star Classic, but that's what I've got for you to close the show out today. Glenn, final words?
Can
Okay.
we
Yeah.
do
The
one?
final words are
Oh, what do you got, Kevin? You got something
what's
to throw
that?
in?
Good, Kim.
Do we want to do predictions?
Well, I don't
10
have to.
matches.
Hey, I had all sorts of trouble getting this thing rolling, so I'll do one. I'll do predictions on my Instagram. How's that?
And next month's show is on the NWCA multinational duels. Okay. We want to do a show about the smaller schools that are really leading to the growth of our great sport. So tune in next month, same Matt time, same Matt channel. On behalf of Jason Bryant and Kevin Hazard, I'm Glenn Gormley. Thank you for tuning in.